that was where she lived. And they believe that's the only reason why their boy got into Eton College, because they put the music scholarship forward. But then the boy did not even get the music scholarship. He got what they call a music exhibition. So because there were boys, even though he played 5 instruments, there were boys that played 7 instruments. And higher grade, than him. So they said, yes, he's good, but there are better people. But they did offer him an exhibition, which is that Eton will pay for 2 of his 2 choices, I think 2 instruments. 2 instruments, or all paid. Which, when they told us the value, was £160 a month. That's £160 a month. So in a term, I think that sort of equated to. I'm trying to think the value of that. Yeah, about 480. Yes, every term. So, but he got that exhibition. So they told us about that, and we thought, gosh, what are we going to do? So they said, get a voice coach, get the singing in. They said, if he can sing, we said, yeah, he does like singing. You can put him across to the Eton Masters as somebody that can contribute to the school choir and the orchestras. And then they said, you need to get a musical instrument as well. At the time, Korede used to do the do-re-mi thing on the piano. So we said, how about the piano or a keyboard? They said, forget that. Because there are kids that have been playing since they were 2. So they said you won't get too far with the piano because there are kids that are on like grade 7 and you are just starting. That will take a long time. Okay. And remember, when we went to see them was around February last year. And we knew that Korede would be called in for an assessment, before the end of the year. So they said, you haven't got much time. And they said, why don't you think of another instrument? And they said, look for a difficult instrument. So we bought a book about the right instrument for your child. That's the name of the book. And then, I'd also read a book called The Tiger Mum by Amy Chua, where she also sort of alluded to that theory, where she told her second daughter to learn the viola. Yeah, the viola. So we thought, okay, what instrument can we play? And then, before we made that decision, we had gone back home and got a voice coach. So we went to meet with this voice coach and said, this is what we're trying to do. We want Korede to get into Eton or really, really elite school, but it's Eton we want. And she said, get him to play the French horn or the bassoon. She said, there are not enough of them in the country. That's what she told us. So she said, and I even have some students. So she tutors in this Royal College of Music and some of these Royal Harmonica orchestras and places like that we didn't know anything about. So she said, get him to do the French horn or the bassoon. But then later on she kept saying, forget the bassoon. Get him to play the French horn. Get him to play the French horn. So we go on Google. French horn teachers.
What does it look like?
Exactly. What is this French horn? What is it? What does it do? We need to buy a new car? Because our new friends had told us that they had to get a 7-seater for their son because of the shape and the length and the size of the double bass. So we thought, do we have to go back to our 7-seater days? So anyway, my husband went to look for a French horn in the only place that manufactures French horn in the UK called Paxman. And they said, oh, French horn, that's fine, we'll go into Eton, don't worry. And then they saw, they measured him and did all of that. And they came back home with a French horn. So we got a French horn teacher, and that's how he began French horn lessons in May. So see, we really took our time, didn't we? We really took our time. Okay, so the maths, we kept on with the maths. The non-verbal tuition as well. We felt Korede wasn't that strong. I mean, we're all parents. We know the strengths and the weaknesses of our kids. And we felt his non-verbal, wasn't strong enough. And Eton had told us that they were going to assess reasoning. But what we noticed about the reasoning test was after we read about it and we asked about it and we joined different forums, nobody seemed to know what these tests were. They just said, oh, they're set by the University of Durham students, but there was no past questions. You know, there were no papers we could buy. It was like a mystery. So we said, reasoning is non-verbal reasoning, it's verbal reasoning. The boy that got in, one of the twins, told us, I'm really sorry, but it was just on the computer, I don't remember. But I remember shapes. He said he remembered shapes, and then we met another boy who told us, I think there was shapes. Nobody seemed to remember what this test was. So we thought, okay, shapes then, non-verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning will do everything. But again, Korede had grammar schools to prepare for. So we still hadn't backed down from the grammar school, preparing for the grammar school exams. So we started doing that. So we started doing all this tutoring as well, we did. And then we went to Korede's school, his current school, and spoke to the head teacher and told him that we wanted Korede to go to, we didn't even tell him it. We told him we wanted him to go to an elite school. He said, oh, it told us some of the preparatory schools around, really good, what Eton is really good secondary schools. And we said, no, we want him to go to Eton. So they said, we've never sent anyone there before. But as a person, he himself had gone to a boarding school. He said, I can tell you it's a good decision if you want to do this, but you have got to be ready to work. And then he said to us, does he sing? So we said, we started the singing. He said, keep up the singing. If there's any choir, you can get him to join. So I started thinking, what's it with this singing thing? Everyone's talking about singing. Then he talked about instruments as well. And then he said, you need him to be doing more work than we even give them in school. So he said, because during the interview they can ask him anything, and he said, go and get the old English text. It's not your modern scripts. He said, go and get the old difficult English text. And when he said that, then he said, with science, start going to science museums. He's a boy, they expect his science to be at a certain level. In school, in year 6, some of them with the science, they're on levels 4 or 5. But he said it's got to be at a level 6. So basically, he gave us more work to do. And he started telling the other teachers in school as well that Korede wants to go to Eton. Korede wants to go to Eton. Well, Korede's parents want him to go to Eton. Korede's parents want him to go to Eton. And we got a mixed reaction. Some of the teachers thought, Eton, there are very good schools. Around us where we live, there's Eton College, it's a good school. Why isn't that good enough for you? And Korede's parents said, no, we want Eton. And there was a day in the swimming area in school. Korede told us, he came home and said he was swimming, and the sports teacher said, you need to swim faster if you want to get to Eton. And we felt slighted. How dare he say that, what is wrong with these people? Why can't they be supportive and all that? And my husband went to talk to this sports teacher later on. And then the sports teacher said, just let him keep running and, let him keep swimming and, he can improve and all of that. So we then resumed, the running again. We took it very, very seriously. And then we took swimming seriously as well and registered him at a swimming club. And he kept doing this, the singing and the French on. So, and the other thing in our research that we found out when we were told to get the old English text was we said, okay, let's look at the schools. The really elitist schools in the country, what do they read? And we discovered Colette Court's reading list. So Colette Court is the preparatory junior arm of St. Paul's School. St. Paul's School is one of the most academic schools in Great Britain. It's a really good school. That's where the Chancellor of the Exchequer went to, Osborne. So it's a really, really, really grand school, very difficult to get into. We tried that as well, but it was a no. But, it's fine. But we started, getting the reading list. So we got up their reading list. On their reading list for their year 6 and I believe year 7 students, there were about 80 books on there. It's a lot of legwork, I must say. A lot of research. My husband works more flexibly than I do. So he went to the library, talked to them in the library and said, we need all these books. They went to reserve the books for us all across the libraries in London and in the southeast, basically. And then they will call us up to say, a dozen books have arrived, and then we'll go and pick the books and say, Korede, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. You need to read at least 2 of these every day. Keep reading, keep reading. And then they'll call us again. We'll say, Korede, we have to return the ones that we've collected. We have to return those. So we'll return those. So you need to get ready because a dozen more books are coming. And we just, I must say, we really kept the pressure up. But then again, we made time. We allowed him to play. When he was 10, this was before Eton came into the picture, September 2013. With the running that he had done in the past, my husband decided to frame all his medals and a few pictures. So we took everything and went to a particular shop. He says posh photography shop and said, please put everything together. I must say that caused a bit of an argument. I thought, this is over the top, it's not necessary. He said, no, the boy needs to be visually stimulated. Nobody is going to encourage him the way his parents will. He said, if you don't celebrate him, if you, as a parent, don't celebrate him, other people won't celebrate him for you. So we got that for him, for his 10th birthday. And I'll talk about references in very soon in Eton. One of the things we did was we took a picture of that and sent it to